Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I'm nearing the end of my gay movie marathon, and I am up to Cruising, William Friedkin's fairly notorious film. It was notorious for filming in real gay bars and leather bars in 1980. It shows it had a lot of real extras, real people, and he really got into the real scene to sort of depict it. And it's a little bit of a time capsule with, I think, the leather bars and clubs in New York in the late 70s, 79. I think they filmed it in 79, or it was released in 1980. And also the ratings board absolutely just they required, I think, 50 cuts, and they had to remove about 40 minutes of footage, which was mostly stuff in the bars, because it showed Al Pacino's character watching, observing, and maybe getting involved in some of these scenes. And there is some controversy in regards to the actual ending and how the cuts affected how the ending was done. But basically, it's a film about a cop who is asked to infiltrate the gay leather scene because there appears to be a serial killer who has killed, I think, 4 people now. By the time the film starts, I think we're on the second killing, and there's 2 more during the film. And there's also body parts that have been floating in the water near New York. So they're guessing that he's killed more than those 2 people. But he gets kind of sucked into the scene. I mean, it's kind of hard not to. He kind of has to. And it gets a bit confusing because the ending is a bit ambiguous. It does imply that maybe he has become the murderer. And like I said, the 40 minutes of footage that was removed would have depicted various possibilities in regards to him and what he experienced and so forth. But they wanted to do a DVD director's cut, but they found out that the studio had destroyed all the footage, apparently, so they weren't able to. So Friedkin was not very impressed by that. I think it was Universal who released the film. United Artists was the distributor, so I'm not sure who had the footage or who destroyed it. But it's a very dark film. It's a very interesting film. Pacino does a good job with the role, except he really can't dance. But aside from that, and as someone who's interested in the leather scene, it was interesting, and like I said, a bit of a time capsule of what the clubs and that would have been like at the time. It was released in February 1980, so it was definitely filmed in 1979. So it's more of a depiction of the clubs of the 70s. And this is before HIV, so this is kind of a look at the sort of post-gay revolution, pre-HIV sort of club scene. Now, there are a lot of protests in regards to filming of the film and releasing the film. People were protesting it because they were homophobic and they just didn't want a mainstream film about gay subculture and so forth, and gay in general. But also the gay communities were up in arms because they felt that the film was exposing a subculture of the gay community that was going to make the overall community look bad. Now, there is a little bit of a issue there where there are some very conservative gay groups and gay people that believe, the gay community is one way and should be seen one way. They're very heteronormative and so forth, and those sort of groups were the ones that had issues with this film, whereas the other groups, are actually gay people living gay lives and not remotely heteronormative. So it's an interesting note to the film. There's not a lot to talk about. It is a bit ambiguous. I honestly wasn't quite sure what was happening at the end of the film, and it's like 11 a.m. in the morning here, and I've been up all night watching films, and I was sort of falling asleep, and I'm like, did I miss something? And I'm like, no, it just doesn't quite make sense. It's kind of ambiguous. I mean, you can look at it as just as this one killer, and he does actually find him and that, but it does become there are a few little elements that do make it a bit confusing and ambiguous, and whether they came out of the editing or whether they were sort of added in later, whether they were there the whole time, it's unclear. But it's a good film. It's oddly linked to a couple of murders, one in America in 1980 just after the film was released, and one in Australia in 1990, I can't remember. But that I'm going to do another video about in itself, because I know a bit about that. But it was a film that people watched before crimes were committed that, some people suggested it inspired. But like I said, there are other stories. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the film if you saw it. If you haven't, I would see it. It's worth it just to see what things were like back in the 70s.